Okay, welcome to part 7, I think. In this video I'm going to be going over the actual validation. So what we're going to be doing is using this function to fetch the user IDs, and then we're going to be comparing the sort of number of users against the number of users that someone actually typed in that box. And if that number is different, we are going to say that they've entered an invalid user because somehow we haven't returned one that they entered, or we haven't returned the ID for one that they entered, and then we're going to try and work out which one isn't in this list anymore. So hopefully that makes sense. I think it will once we actually get to the code. So now let's just go back to our new conversation page, and we will create the code here to deal with this. So the first thing we obviously need to do is get the list of user IDs. So we can define a new variable here called user IDs, which is just going to be equal to the function we just created. So fetch user IDs, and we're going to pass in the user names array. Okay, so now we've got the user IDs from the usernames. We can check to see if the numbers in each one are equal. So we can do if count user IDs is not equal to count user names, and if that is true, if they're not equal, that means there's been an error. So we're going to append something to the errors array, and the something I'm going to append is a string, which is going to be the following users could not be found. And then we're going to have one of those, and then a comma separated list of usernames. And the way we're going to work out this list is using the array diff function. So what the array diff function does is it takes a, let's do an example up here. So if we did array diff like so, this function takes, well, an unlimited number of parameters. The first one has to be an array, and the second one makes the most sense as an array, but it can be anything. So if you pass in, for example, the array 1, 2, and 3, like so, and then as the second parameter you pass in the array 1 and 2, this will then return an array with 3 as the only value. So what is actually happening is PHP is checking each of these elements of this first array to see if those elements are in any of the following parameters. If that makes any sense. I hope it does. The php.net page explains it quite well, so it might be worth going there. So the result of this effectively is that this function returns the values in this array that are not in this array. So we can use that here by checking to see if the what we can do is use this function to directly get the user names which are not in the user IDs array. Or obviously the user IDs array has the names as the keys, not as the values. So we can use the array keys function to get an array of the keys. So yeah, hopefully I'm explaining that quite okay. Like I said, go and check out the php.net page and maybe play around with these functions to see what they do. But essentially, this is how we're going to use them. So to get the I'll append this on for now as a random string, but I'm going to have to do something else in a moment. So to append, well, to work out which names we don't have, if that makes sense, we're going to use the array diff function like this. So the first parameter is going to be the list of names that the user specified, so user names. The second parameter is going to be the user IDs that we returned, but we need the keys of this array, so we're going to use the array keys on this, like so. So now, what this whole thing here will return is the list of names which the user specified but don't have an ID associated with them. And then we can just implode that whole thing with a comma and a space, which will then generate a list of names which were not found in the database. So that's it for the validation, actually. So all we need to do now is create a function to actually create the conversation. So what we're going to do is just come down here, as we always do, and we're going to do a simple if empty errors, and then in here we're going to code the code to actually send the message. And also what we need to do is show the error messages if they if any exist, and if none exist we want to show the success message. So in the past I've done this in a slightly confusing way that was sort of more neat and efficient in terms of lines of code. However, this time I'm going to do it the sort of the most sort of simple way, so that hopefully you'll follow the logic and understand what's going on. So what we need to do is check to see if the form has been submitted. Now instead of doing this whole checking all these again, what we can do is check to see if the errors array is defined. So we can just do if is set oh, where am I typing that? If is set errors, and if it is, that means the form has been submitted, because errors is only defined inside this block where the form has to be submitted. So hopefully that makes sense. So inside of here what we can do is check to see if errors is empty. So if empty errors, what this means here is that the form has been submitted but no errors occurred, else the form has been submitted but errors did occur. So in the else condition we're going to loop over all of the errors. So for each errors as error, we're going to output the error message box with the error inside of it. So we're just going to do echo div class message error, and then the error message. So we're going to comma a new string on the end, which is going to be just the error, straight up error, and then the div, like so, and one of those to make it work. Okay, so just here we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to send the success message. So we're going to do echo div class message success, possibly spelled wrong, your message has been sent. Hooray! And then we're going to just add a quick link to return to the inbox. So this is just an a tag, so a href equals index.php page equals inbox. Because once you've sent the message, you're not really going to want to read it. So I'm just going to put a link to say, like go back. When you're making this in a real system, you could probably do something a little bit more user-friendly, but never mind. So the text of the link is going to be return to your inbox, like so. Okay, so we need to end the a tag and the div tag, which looks pretty much right to me. So now what we can do is test out all of this validation and just make sure that it all works, because we haven't actually tested this code for quite a while. We've done quite a lot. So let's just go to our browser and reload it for syntax errors. Good start. So if I just click submit, okay, we should see we get, you must enter at least one name, because the that's a bit odd. If we just go back to the code, oh yeah, okay, so the name is empty. I was thinking that was this error, but it's not. Okay, so going to the browser, that's good. So we've got that all of them are empty, so the if empty check has failed for all values. If I put in a testing subject and a testing body and click submit, we'll only get the first error. However, you'll notice that the values disappear from these forms, which is really annoying. So imagine you typed out a huge message and just mistyped someone's username. You don't want to have to do the whole thing again. That would be a pain. So the way we can get around this is by having PHP re-output the data you send to it back in these form fields. So going back to the code, this is a really straightforward thing to do. We just need to add a value attribute to these two text elements. So we can just add value equals, and then inside of here we're going to add an inline PHP block, which is going to be if is set post to, which is just the post variable that would correspond to this form element being submitted. And if it is set, we're going to do echo HTML entities of post, without that thing there, to, like so. Okay. The HTML entities, by the way, is just to protect against people accidentally XSS attacking themselves, which will be quite hard to do, but if someone does something by accident and it sort of breaks the page, they're going to think it's your fault, so best to avoid that. So I'm going to copy that down into the subject and just change to subject. So copy, paste, lovely. And then the same for the text area, except you don't have a value attribute, you actually place the text in between the tag. So here, nope, yeah, like that. So I'm going to paste that in there, nope, I'm going to paste this in there. So copy and paste, and then obviously this just needs to be changed to body. Oops, like so. Okay, so we can reload our page once more and resend this data, and that should all appear. So there you go. The message is now preserved if for some reason there is an error. Okay, so the final thing we need to test out is our regular expression. So let's enter a name, so well, test. The following users could not be found. Test, so that's not actually the regular expression, but that's good. That's because there is not a user with the name test. But we can actually test our expression by just adding like an 8. So there you go, we get this error, which is the list of names you gave does not look valid, and that's because an 8 and a 9 are not in this list of available characters. Something that is probably worth sort of also including in this expression is a comma at the end of the list. Because what would happen if you had that is that you'd get an empty element inside this usernames array. Obviously MySQL wouldn't find that user, but it would be displayed as the following users could not be found, empty user, which would not look great, but that's something I can leave for you to do. Okay, so that's pretty much that for validation. So let's just do one more check, which is to enter a name that does exist and see if it doesn't give any errors at all. So let's enter my name, because I'm the only one in the table at the moment, and click send. And you can see we have your message has been sent, and a link to return to your inbox, which looks like it's going to work, and it does. Obviously, the message hasn't actually been sent, because all we've done is validate the form. We haven't actually, you know, sort of made it work, I guess. And that's what we're going to do in the next part, because I'm going to end this one here, because we seem to have come to a sort of natural stopping point. So thank you for watching, and come back for what I believe will be part 8.